Let's jump right into this explainer, because the latest industry headlines, yeah, they are completely misleading you about where memory prices are actually headed right now. Look, if you've been trying to buy RAM, spin up a server, or just upgrade your own rig lately, you know exactly how painful this market is. But recently, this new, kind of rosy narrative has been floating around, and we really need to untangle it right away.
So you've probably seen optimistic headlines like this one, right? Stuff sparking all these, hey, the worst is over takes across the tech space. And honestly, at first glance, I get it. TrendForce's July survey projects Q3 DRAM contract prices to go up 13 to 18%. Now, you compare that to the massive roughly 60% surge we just saw in Q2, and sure, it looks like a cool down. It looks like we're finally getting some relief.
But here's the catch, and it's a pretty grim one. Prices are only slowing down because consumer electronics makers have basically slammed into a brick wall of affordability. Economists call this demand destruction. The market isn't healing. The supply chain isn't magically fixed. It's just that the buyers, well, they're simply out of cash.
So the big takeaway here is this. When you see prices sitting at record highs, and they're only rising more slowly because buyers are totally exhausted while supply stays incredibly tight, that is absolutely not a market recovery. It's a plateau at high altitude. You're not getting a discount. The market has just temporarily found the absolute maximum it can squeeze out of you before you walk away entirely.
All right, moving into part 1, AI's HBM memory squeeze, which is really the root cause of all of this.
To get why standard memory is so wildly unaffordable right now, we need a quick refresher on HBM, or high bandwidth memory. This is that highly specialized, insanely fast memory used almost exclusively for AI accelerators. The massive insatiable boom in generative AI has triggered a wholesale reallocation of DRAM wafer capacity by the major manufacturers just to pump out this specific type of memory.
And get this, there is a brutal 3-to-1 conversion ratio at play here. For every single HBM wafer produced, it effectively wipes out about 3 wafers worth of ordinary DDR5 from the overall market. HBM just eats up vastly more factory time and resources. So every single time a fab decides to feed the AI beast, standard consumer memory gets aggressively choked off.
And trust me, they are going to keep feeding that beast, because HBM profit margins are 3 to 5 times higher than conventional DRAM. It's a total no-brainer for Samsung, SK Hynix, and Micron. I mean, those 3 control over 95% of production. In fact, SK Hynix and Micron booked their entire 2026 HBM capacity by October of last year. It is literally completely sold out. Standard memory just cannot compete with those kinds of margins.
Okay, part 2, the memory squeeze scoreboard. Let's look at the numbers.
Remember that 13 to 18% projected increase for Q3? Well, when you stack it directly on top of Q2's 60% surge, reality hits hard. Prices aren't going down. We're just stacking fresh, double-digit increases on top of already unprecedented, record-high prices.
And to really grasp the historical scale of this thing, we only have to look back to the start of the year. In Q1 2026, PC DRAM contracts surged by 105 to 110% quarter over quarter. Guys, that is the steepest single-quarter surge on record, ever.
The cumulative damage across the board is just mind-blowing. DDR5 chip prices literally quadrupled, going from about $6.84 to over $27 a gigabyte in one single quarter. DDR4 spot prices up an insane 2,200% over a 12-month period before they even twitched downward. NAND storage climbed 246% through 2025, and right now, supply chain advisors are actually telling their OEM clients to plan for 10 to 20% monthly increases through the end of the year as a worst-case scenario. Nobody, and I mean nobody, is forecasting a decline right now.
Now, hold on a second. While this AI demand is undeniably massive, as objective analysts, we've got to add a little skeptic's footnote right here. We cannot ignore the fact that the memory industry has a very well-documented history of price fixing. Remember the DRAM cartel cases in the mid-2000s? Those actually ended in guilty pleas. So when these suppliers, who are raking in record profits right now, by the way, tell us these shortages are just going to persist indefinitely, well, we should probably take those claims with a healthy dose of scrutiny.
That being said, the data we have is what we have to plan by. IDC is calling this a permanent reallocation, not just your typical boom and bust cycle. If you look at the timeline, even though we're supposedly at the peak of the squeeze right now in mid-2026, real structural relief on the manufacturing side isn't coming until late 2027 at the absolute earliest. That's when Micron's new fabrication plants in Idaho finally come online.
Let's transition to part 3, impact on local builders. What does this all mean for you? Well, first off, the floor for self-hosting just keeps going up. Since HBM makes up half or even more of a packaged GPU's entire cost now, that old wisdom of self-hosting is cheaper is fading super fast. The GPU rental floor is sitting anywhere from $2,000 to $20,000 a month. And because global manufacturing is tapped out, H100 rentals are actually up about 14% year over year. To justify buying and hosting your own hardware today, you need crazy high utilization. I mean, it has to be running non-stop to make the math pencil out.
Now, this dynamic makes Apple's Unified Memory Max super fascinating from a strategy standpoint for running large local models. Because Apple bakes unified memory right into their silicon, they neatly sidestep that whole discrete GPU and HBM tax. But, and it's a significant but, Apple still buys their DRAM from the exact same suppliers as everyone else. So while they dodge the direct HBM bottleneck, the overall high cost of memory means future high RAM Mac configs are probably going to get repriced or locked into higher premium tiers. Don't hold your breath for discounts.
Which brings us to part 4, how to survive it.
The practical playbook, pulling from all the credible sources out there, basically comes down to 3 steps. Number 1, buy only the absolute minimum capacity you genuinely need for your current workloads. Do not try to future-proof right now. Number 2, treat memory like a serious, contracted line item, not some casual spot purchase. And 3, if you know you need hardware in the next 2 quarters, waiting is a losing game. Just bite the bullet and execute the purchase now.
I really want to emphasize this for the home lab builders and IT planners watching. Holding out for prices to eventually normalize is pointless right now. That 128 gigabyte kit you're holding off on, it is literally waiting on relief from factories that won't even start pouring concrete until 2027. This is a multi-year condition, and we all just have to plan around it.
But to wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a pretty fascinating wildcard that could throw a wrench in this entire timeline. The demand curve isn't a law of physics, right? As open-weight AI labs fiercely compete to cut down on thinking tokens and drastically boost efficiency, using techniques like sparse mixture of experts that only activate maybe 3% of a model's parameters at once, architectures might simply start requiring way less memory. So, here's the billion-dollar question. Could aggressive software efficiency actually break the memory squeeze before those new hardware factories even pour their foundations? Keep a close eye on those code optimizations. They might just be the thing that saves your wallet. Thanks for tuning in.